Hello everyone, Mrs. Stoss here. So we're going to take a look at tonight how we can build our body paragraphs and supporting details even stronger than where they're at right now. We want to do that by including real life examples and meaningful connections, which we'll talk about in more detail tomorrow. So let's look at our learning target. We want to be able to say that we can compose strong body paragraphs that include specific supporting details, real-life examples, and meaningful connections that expand, enhance, and extend our writing. Now, why are we doing this? Because it's important for us to be able to move our writing from ordinary to extraordinary. We have to remember we cannot write the same way we did a couple months ago, nor can we write the same way we did in 6th grade, so we want to move beyond that. Alrighty. So we want to remember that as we're building strong body paragraphs, it takes time. Just like this little guy here, he's probably worked out, he's probably practiced over and over again lifting his weights. We have to do the same thing with our body paragraphs, and that's why we're taking the time to focus on this together. It's not something that happens easily. Sometimes we rush through it. Sometimes we realize that our paragraphs aren't longer than 3 sentences or 4 sentences, but we have to enhance them. And we can do that by adding real life examples, okay? So let's look at an example. Let's just say that our topic is that athletes are overpaid, alrighty? And let's say that I believe that they're overpaid and it's the fans that are paying the price for this. So if I were to include a real life example in my body paragraph, I would say something like this. I remember my 13th birthday party like it was yesterday. It was a wonderful day until my father informed me that he could not afford to purchase the tickets to the Giants game I wanted so badly to attend. At first I became angry, but then I realized the tickets were over $200 each for average seats. Notice I'm relating it to my own life. I then realized I could enjoy the game more with my family at home and a big bowl of popcorn. This is a real life example that would support my opinion that it's unfair for the fans to have to pay such high ticket prices because the athletes are paid such high salaries. So keep that in mind. Alrighty, we can also add allusions in our body paragraphs. This is also known as a meaningful connection because it's a reference to something outside the text. It enhances our body paragraphs when we connect our reasons to historical figures, a time period in history, a current event in the media, a literary character from another novel, a movie, a book, a poem, a song, even a quote by another author. For instance, if I am talking about or I'm writing on a topic that focuses on perseverance and how overcoming obstacles can lead to success, maybe I could talk about the Egyptians, and I could mention how even though they had a small amount of tools and such little technology, they were still able to build incredible pyramids that lasted until today. I could mention our founding fathers. I could mention people like Betsy Ross, who paved the way as pioneers. If I was writing about a topic about people who maybe took the initiative to start something new and weren't fearful of what the future may bring. These are all references to something outside the text. They are what's going to enhance our body paragraphs and take them to the next level. There's our little guy again, so you want to pay attention to this. Remember, the format and the structure of the body paragraphs are all traditionally the same. We need our puzzle pieces to connect our ideas together, so we want to make sure that we have transition words and transition phrases. Then we state our reason why we agree or disagree, of course choosing one side. We want to remember to appeal to the audience's logic, emotions, or morals and values. Then we state our 3 supporting details, and this is kind of like the foundation to our body paragraphs. It is what lays the foundation and proves our reason to be true. And when we include those specific real-life examples, allusions, and meaningful connections, that's when we take a compositional risk, and that can help bring our grade up. Again, we want to pay attention to this because in the 3rd body paragraph, it gets a little bit different. We're afforded an opportunity to maybe expand and go even further in our writing. Again, we always start with that transition word. We state one reason why we agree or disagree. We want to appeal to the audience's logic, emotions, or morals. And then the same thing. We give our 3 supporting details, which is the foundation of our body paragraph. But you can do something different in the third body paragraph. Besides giving allusions and real life examples, you can prove the other side is wrong. You can acknowledge the opposition and try to put their argument or put their side down by proving your side is stronger. Alrighty, so what we want to do, pay attention to this, we want to get to know our enemy. We want to be able to refute the opposing side or negate them, which means to kind of put them down and prove them wrong. So what we're going to see is we're going to watch a clip of newscasters who argue about the fact that cell phones shouldn't be allowed in schools. But there's one newscaster who tries to refute or negate their argument, but she doesn't do such a great job at it. So I'd like you to think as you're watching the video, what other argument could you use to negate the opposition? They believe cell phones should not be allowed in school at all, and you'll see the one newscaster who tries to come up with a reason why it should be allowed. Okay, so let's take a look.
Welcome back to the Roadshow. This morning in the Buzz, do your kids bring a cell phone to school with them? Well, if they do, they may have to start leaving it at home. If one local lawmaker gets his way, State Senator John Tassoni Jr. has proposed banning students from using cell phones in school at all. Students would get a warning at first, followed by more serious punishments for repeat offenders. He says he thinks it will help prevent cyberbullying and also disruptions in class. But opponents say it should really be left up to each individual school. Right now, schools do make their own policies. You know, you hate to harken back to the old days when we did not bring cell phones because we didn't have them.
Senator, you are correct.
I agree 110%.
I agree 130%.
They do not belong in schools at all.
I disagree.
Okay, Michaela, why?
Michaela, you're on your own because I agree with Danielle that there is absolutely no
Nope.
need for a child to bring a cell phone into school
Nothing.
at all.
You can talk face to
ahead.
face.
One word.
Pass notes.
Go ahead.
What? Columbine. How are you going to get in touch with someone if, God forbid, something happens in your school?
Listen,
If I was a parent, I would want maybe not take it out in class, I would want my son or daughter to have a phone in school. God forbid something were to happen, maybe on the walk home, maybe on the way to school, I would feel much safer having
Okay.
it with them.
fair point, but I'm not buying it. Because you know what? Give the teachers cell phones. Give every
Yeah.
teacher in the class a cell
Right.
phone to have in their desk if something, God forbid, like Columbine ever happens again.
And you know what? I hate to say it, but God forbid things did happen before Columbine, before we had cell phones, I'm saying. And you know what? There were payphones in schools. That's what you use for emergencies or, you know,
I'm sorry.
I don't know.
I listen,
Yeah.
Columbine was horrible,
Yeah.
and anything like that ever again would be horrible. But there is no need for a kid to have
I
college-
say high school level. I'm not saying give it to your
All right, you know
7-year-old
No, I
son
say
or
high school
daughter.
level. You don't need it. You don't need it. It's a distraction.
It is. Why do you? Okay, other than the
other than
emergency,
Columbine,
why
what
would
do
you
you
need
need
it? You don't need to text your student, your fellow classmate
You don't
in
need to get in
class.
touch
You
with
know?
mom and dad during C
no.
period English
I
class.
wasn't saying that. I'm
Yeah.
saying you should have it for emergency purposes only.
For emergency-
Before and after school. I know I was, before I had a cell phone, the first couple of years of high school, I was always stuck for a ride. I couldn't
Yeah.
find someone. I couldn't do this. The phone didn't
But we had
work,
those
blah,
issues
blah,
too,
blah.
and we figured it out.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
We
yeah.
just
I'm just
figured it
saying,
out.
it's come to that
Rode your
point.
bike?
Let's look at it this way too. The cyberbullying is a huge issue. We
Oh,
never
yeah.
had these major bullying issues. I mean, we had bullying issues, but not to the point that it's blown up to now. I think you eliminate those cell phones out of school, you're eliminating a big problem. Don't you
Well, they
think?
can easily
You
just
know?
go online and do something
On their
there.
own
But you're
time.
eliminating
Do it after-
half of the day
On their own
that you
time.
would have the ability to do it if you took it out of the school.
I can't
you know?
believe I have a neighbor.
Wow. So there's certainly a big discussion there. And you can visit this URL address if you would like to continue to watch the video. But let's go back to our lesson. So Michaela tried really hard to negate the opposition, the two other newscasters who were against cell phones in the classroom. She had mentioned that students might need it in case of emergencies, okay? So tomorrow when we come into class, we're going to do or complete a do now activity, and I'm going to ask you, what else could she have said to kind of negate the opposition or negate what they believed in? So keep that in mind for tomorrow. Today in class, we completed the four-square method. We came up with some great reasons. We put them here on the top. Reason 1, reason 2, reason 3. And then we came up with 3 supporting details that would prove each reason to be true. Okay? And that's going to help us for our lesson for tomorrow. Remember our persuasive essay topic? Remember, we're focusing on cell phones in the classroom, whether or not they should be allowed, and you're writing a letter to the principal to identify whether or not they should be permitted for use in schools. Now, keep in mind that when we take our four-square method, tomorrow we're going to use our reason and our 3 supporting details to put it into a logical, organized paragraph. And I want to share a sample with you right now. So one student said, obviously, she was against having cell phones in the classroom. And in her foursquare, as you can see here, she said it was distracting to students. That is her reason. So, complete sentence, introductory sentence. To begin with one thought, cell phones in a class can be very distracting to students. Let's look at the body paragraph and see how she started. To begin with one thought, cell phones in class can be very distracting to students. For example, here's her first supporting detail. If students were to have cell phones during class, they could easily take it out and do as they please. They could play games, text, go on the internet, and many other things during the time they should be learning. Also, here's her second supporting detail. If students bring cell phones wherever they go, they might text in the hallway. A catastrophic mistake. Love that vocabulary. When children are distracted while walking, they have tendency to fall, trip, or in simpler terms, hurt themselves. I have personally experienced this kind of situation. Now, here's a real-life example. Once I was walking down a flight of stairs while reading a book, and I absent-mindedly tripped, landing on the hard asphalt below. I sustained a serious injury. It didn't heal for 1 month, and I still have the scar. If this could happen while reading a book, what would happen if a child reads or texts? Again, transition phrase. Furthermore, if students are distracted, their grades are bound to fall. If students don't pay attention, they will never learn, ruining the entire learning process. Now, here's where she goes for her closure, and she forces the reader to think by providing thought-provoking questions for closure. Besides, isn't it the school's purpose to teach children in hopes that one day they will go to a good college and be able to be independent? By allowing cell phones in school, one must consider, will education truly be serving its purpose? She does a great job uniting all of her supporting details under one specific reason. Keep that in mind. That's important because some of us have wavered a little bit and gone off topic. And we want to bring it all back together with our closure. Remember, the closing sentence unites it right back to the original reason. We could say something by allowing cell phones in school, one must consider, will education truly be serving its purpose? Or we could say something like this. Numerous accidents could take place if the district allows cell phones to be utilized in school. So remember, that's really important. Now, what's going to happen in class tomorrow? Tomorrow we're going to be developing our body paragraphs, and we're going to be applying what we've learned about including the real-life examples and making meaningful connections. So tonight you might want to brainstorm some of the meaningful connections that will help you. At the end of the paper that I've given you tonight to take notes on, I'd like you to jot down some brainstorming techniques down there, maybe some meaningful connections that you could possibly tie into your next body paragraph that we write in class tomorrow. Be sure to watch that video in full length if you're interested in it, and we'll talk about it in more detail tomorrow. Have a good night.